Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Basic standards, if you were to loan somebody money, you expect a little bit of accountability, basic accounting as well. Here's the money that you loaned me, here's what it was spent on, I'm paying you back on a monthly basis over the next 12 months or so, and here's the interest that'll be tacked on to the payments. You expect basic accountability, right? Why is that the standard in our everyday lives with normal business interactions and personal interactions, but then when it comes to government, it's a frickin' free-for-all. Oh, just give us the money and don't worry about the rest. We're the government. We're here to serve you. Endless debt stacking on. No idea how we're gonna pay it back. Don't worry about the stacking debt, folks. Keynesian economic theory states that, inflation from all this endless money printing will make it so that in the end, the debt that we're stacking is insignificant anyways. Don't worry about $100 billion for Ukraine. No questions asked. No actual accounting as to where the money's going. Just know that it's going somewhere and that fight is righteous. Now give us another 100 more billion. Oh, an accounting error? Whoops. Here's another 6 billion to add on to the list. You think I'm joking, I'm saying it in a kind of sarcastic manner, but everything I just said is real and it's happening. We're now learning that there was a $6 billion accounting error, whoops, by the Pentagon, and so another $6 billion in taxpayer funds is being sent to fight a proxy war that should have never happened in the first place, that was totally instigated by the West. You're footing the bill. Oligarchs are embezzling millions, hundreds of millions, if not billions. BlackRock and JP Morgan are making billions, and there's simply no accountability, no accounting happening at all. Welcome to your financial relationship with the government. Let me show you guys exactly what I mean by that. We got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. All right, folks, take a look at this. Just a simple accounting error.
Following up from some announcements earlier this year, during the department's regular oversight of our execution of Presidential Drawdown Authority for Ukraine, we discovered inconsistencies in equipment valuation for Ukraine. In a significant number of cases, services used replacement costs rather than net book value, thereby overestimating the value of the equipment drawn down from U.S. stocks and provided to Ukraine. Once we discovered this misvaluation, the comptroller reissued guidance on March 31st, clarifying how to value equipment in line with the Financial Management Regulation and DoD policy to ensure we use the most accurate of accounting methods. We have confirmed that for FY23, the final calculation is $3.6 billion, and for FY22, it is $2.6 billion, for a combined total of $6.2 billion. These valuation errors in no way limit or restricted the size of any of our PDAs or impacted the provision of support to Ukraine. And while the DoD retains the authority to utilize the recaptured PDA, this has no bearing on appropriated USAI or Ukraine PDA replenishment funding approved by Congress.
Yep, that's not a fake video. It's not CGI. It's not AI. It's not a parody video from Mad TV. It's real. You have a right to be pissed off. You have an absolute right to feel as though your taxpayer dollars are being wasted, because that's exactly what's happening. There is no oversight. There is no transparency. The whole thing is a complete and utter scam. You put money into a private business, you know exactly what's happening. There is that standard of accountability where the company has to show how they're spending the money, what they're doing with the money, and if they don't, it's considered fraud. The government, however, isn't held to the same standard. It's a damn free-for-all. For a very long time, Marjorie Taylor Greene and other Republicans have been asking for basic transparency and accounting of every single penny. Well, apparently they've been asking that with good reason. Whoops, we actually made a small mistake, a small $6 billion mistake. Nothing to see here, folks. Even more frustrating when you read headlines like this: Ukraine war, Zelensky embezzled $400 million allocated by the US for purchasing fuel. We covered that previously, but between that and a Ukrainian official being caught trying to cross a European border with, I think it was like $10 million in cash, it really makes you question exactly where all this money is going. Because what it seems like to me, listen, I'm no academic or no expert, but what it seems like to me is one big frickin' taxpayer embezzlement scheme. Recently at the O'Keefe Media Group, James O'Keefe released this secretly recorded encounter with an individual named Serge Varley, who works at BlackRock actually, and said this.
Do you have any thoughts on the Ukraine-Russia war?
Yeah, I do have thoughts.
What are they?
Ukraine is good for business. You know, right? I'll give an example. Russia blows up Ukraine's grain silos. Price of wheat's gonna go mad up. Ukrainian economy is tied very largely to the wheat market, global wheat market. Prices of bread, literally everything it goes up and down. This is fantastic if you're trading. Volatility creates opportunity to make profit. War is real good for business.
War is really good for business, in that there seems to be an incentive for hedge funds and big money managers, and of course governments, to promote information or media propaganda that further perpetuates the conflict rather than, ending the conflict. It's not exactly a shocking statement. I think it's a pretty accepted fact at this point, at least for people that are paying attention. But you take that clip, and then you see this, that BlackRock and JP Morgan are setting up a reconstruction bank for Ukraine. BlackRock and JP Morgan Chase are reportedly aiding the Ukrainian government in setting up a reconstruction bank that could see rebuilding projects being heavily invested in by private entities. The Financial Times noted that it would cost Ukraine roughly $411 billion to rebuild their country amid the onslaught of attacks by Russia, but the cost is continuing to increase. And magically, it seems as though BlackRock and JP Morgan are going to be heavily involved in financing the whole project, which is most likely going to be done by private entities. In other words, they're going to have a stake in a $411 billion rebuilding project. And counting. Seems like good business to me, huh? I mean, come on, folks. I know there's still people in my comment section who get mad at me when I make these Ukraine videos, as if it's simply justified. My land, my Ukraine, my Slava Ukraine. You're not paying attention. You're buying into the emotional rhetoric and getting scammed. I mean, even the far lefties are starting to see the big picture.
You've been very powerful, I have to say. You've been very outspoken about Ukraine. You want to see peace in that war. But how does peace look like if you're Ukrainian? You've had Vladimir Putin illegally invade your country, a democratic country, seizing land which belongs to you. How is there any peace to be achieved if Ukraine, in my opinion, quite rightly, don't want to give an inch of any of this land to the Russians?
Well, I think we always begin with solidarity with the suffering, and that is the suffering of our precious brothers and sisters in the Ukraine. But we have to understand this in the larger backdrop, brother. You know and I know that the United States promised Russia they would not move 1 inch toward Russia by means of NATO. Now 13 former countries associated with the Soviet Union are part of NATO. There's missiles targeting Russia right near the borders. You know and I know, again, if there were missiles in Mexico and Canada who were operated, sponsored by Russia or China, the United States would blow them into smithereens overnight. That's how empires function in that regard. So that, yes, that invasion is criminal. Yes, that invasion is wrong and immoral. But at the same time, NATO, as an instrument of U.S. global power and imperial policy, pushed them against the wall.
Even far lefty Green Party presidential candidates can drop some red pills every now and then, huh? An illegal invasion, therefore everything is justified. Well, what about what led or instigated that invasion? Another great point, what if Russia had formed this global coalition, then Canada and Mexico joined in and put armed forces and missiles pointing from those borders into American territory? Would the US simply accept that? No, obviously not. But nobody wants to have that conversation. Everyone wants to pretend like it's totally one-sided and that it's this battle against evil for the righteous Ukrainians. But of course it goes way beyond that, and I mean way, way beyond that. Obviously, geopolitics isn't always black and white. What it seems to me is that there's big money, big corporations, big money managers, big globalist entities pulling the strings, instigating and enabling conflict in Eastern Europe and conflict across the globe because it's big trillion-dollar business for them. And a lot of that money, of course, comes from you, the taxpayer, pumping in billions of dollars. Not only are your taxpayer dollars being used and abused, but you can't even get basic accounting transparency for the money that's being so recklessly used. I'll say it again, just a $6 billion accounting error. Whoopsies. I wonder how many billions, if not trillions, of whoopsies in government accounting have happened over the last century. That's what I got for you guys. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. You know that we would love to have you here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.